And welcome to Sweet Tea and Tacos. I'm Dave.
And I'm Jen.
And today we're talking about biscuits. And so to talk about biscuits, we brought our friend Devon, who's well known for her biscuits. Welcome, Devon.
Thanks for having me.
So, Jen, would you like to start?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, so, Devon, welcome. And so I want to start with sort of backstory.
Okay.
I know a little bit about where you grew up because I have some relatives that also live there. So tell us about, like, how you grew up. Did your mom make biscuits? How did she do it? Was it a special occasion thing? Was it every day? And then kind of how you got into making biscuits.
Well, my mom did make biscuits, but she used the Pioneer mix.
Okay.
And I feel like my entire life that's what she used.
Yeah.
She kept children at home, and so she made biscuits every single morning.
Wow.
And those kids were treated to delicious little biscuits.
That's awesome.
So that's just a clear memory that I have.
Yeah.
I didn't really eat them in the mornings, but there would always be some left when I came back from school, and she would have buttered them in the morning, and then, you know, that deliciousness that is a cold biscuit with melted butter in it. That's really what I remember about that.
That's neat.
But I thought canned biscuits were the best things in the world. You know how if your mom does something, then you kind of go to the polar. I like to peel them and all that. And I still like a canned biscuit. I'm not saying anything wrong about
There's
those.
some good ones out on the market.
Yeah, but when I was out on my own, I like to make everything scratch. So when I started thinking about biscuits, I think I avoided it for a little while and then would just sort of dabble and try and, you know, as we all do. But I wanted to get my recipe.
Right.
I think I did use Pioneer some, or like a Bisquick. We just like Pioneer better than Bisquick. And they're fine. You know, I'm not, that's a good quick alternative.
Absolutely.
I don't want to have to go to the store to buy a product to put something on the table.
Right.
I want the basic ingredients at home.
We're kind of the same way.
Yeah. So that's really where that came from. It took a while for me to relent to use self-rising flour in my biscuits because I didn't want a different product. But then I tried sunflower and I was like, this was made for biscuits. Like it really, I may still play with that some more, but so.
Gotcha. Well,
So Jennifer had kind of attacked biscuits one time. Just decided I'm gonna learn how to make biscuits.
this was probably like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, maybe.
And kind of got a method. And funny story with the biscuits from her family, and they were kind of like the we call them Popeye biscuits. Now there's a story there.
Well, yeah. So I don't know. My grandparents, I guess they were sort of foodies. You know, I mean, before anybody knew about being a foodie, but they were real particular about some of their things that they liked. But my grandfather, he did not want any kind of middle in his biscuit at all. Like, he wanted a top and a bottom.
Like a flat, crispy.
A flat, and it,
And I have no problem making those for some reason. I have not been able to make fluffy biscuits. So.
Well, and so I've got
Exactly.
a recipe that, you know, is the family recipe for that. But then when I started making them, I wanted to see if I could get them, you know, puffy and all those delicious layers. So, but it's progressed, and I've kind of revisited things during all this quarantine, you know. And I mean, I feel like I had gotten a little rusty.
And it does take consistency. Yeah. Because someday, even as much as I make them, some days I'm like, what happened there?
I know.
You know?
And the weather, you know, can affect things.
And as you mentioned, quarantine, just availability of product, a different flour, even if it's another self-rise or the same type that you've been using, it's different. It absorbs the milk differently and everything.
Right.
But I was going to say that your grandfather liked crispy. I feel like I grew up with a lot of drop biscuits.
Okay.
At other home. Mom always rolled hers out. So whenever we would take them, I don't to church for a Sunday school thing or people would ooh and ah because they were so pretty. And that's all I knew.
Yeah.
Because they were used to drop biscuits. And I think drop biscuits are harder to make than a rolled out. That's just me.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because that stickiness that happens when you try to.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. And I guess I always sort of think of drop biscuits more, and maybe I just haven't had that many, but I just think of them almost like a scone, you know?
They do have that crumbly top texture. Yeah. I think I'm like a dinner roll. Like maybe they call it a biscuit, but they served it with a meal in the evening.
Yeah.
I don't know where that's coming from. That might be a false memory, but...
So how did you come up with the recipe that you're using now?
Well, probably like I do most recipes. I researched, look through old cookbooks. So what do they call a biscuit? Just sort of what's the common thread? What out of that do I like? What do I not want to use? Right. And then I played. So, like I said, I used long ago. Probably at first I would use plain flour and try to add my other. And I just never worked on that long enough to get it just right. Then when I started using self-rising, sunflower specifically, it's a saltier flour, I think. I don't know that little bit.
Yeah.
And I always use unsalted butter. Because I know that there's a balance there.
Right.
Yeah.
And then years ago, and I couldn't tell you what year, Southern Living did, they'll in the back of the magazine they have the tips that
yeah,
and some pastry chef mentioned grating butter, and that's when everything clicked.
Yeah,
because I would avoid making biscuits because I didn't want to cube butter, and you get out my pastry blender and it would get all I'd do it, and that was a mental block that kept me from doing it. Once I started grating butter, I never hesitate to make.
Yeah, I've been doing that recently too. I mean, I knew about that technique, but I think I saw one of your videos on Facebook that you did, and it reminded me, and I was like, oh yeah, that's good. And so it does. It makes a world of difference. Yeah. Now, I used to do them, like when David was talking about
in the food processor.
Those years ago. I did them in the food processor, and it's a good method. But there's just something about kind of doing it by hand, and I don't know, it all coming together, and you kind of watching that process. And
you can tell the delicate changes in texture. I love my food processor, but again, that would stand in my way because I'm like, oh, I've got to clean that one and dough out of it.
Well, this way, it's a bowl and a work surface.
Right. And even when I make them, and my mom used to do this, I put a paper towel down and put flour it, and I pat out my biscuits on that paper towel. That way my countertops don't get dirty. They were, whatever. And because if I get out my mat, my rolling, I sound really lazy when I talk about my biscuit, but that's sort of my method. How little cleanup will I require?
Yeah. Well, they can get pretty messy.
Yeah. Well, that's the hardest part about cleaning for me. I mean, cooking is it's great. We cooked the other night, and it was we used every single pot we had. Do
you feel like sometimes we had this last week, my son's birthday, and he requested, whatever different foods.
Yeah.
And I was excited cooking, and and then I just started doing all these things, at the end, oh, we'll do this too.
We'll add this, yeah.
And then you sit down to dinner and think,
what have I done?
Look at that. But it's like a high. I don't know.
Well, we've always said in our dream house, in our dream kitchen, we're going to have 2 dishwashers.
Oh,
absolutely.
Good plan.
Maybe it'll happen one day. Yeah.
So what is it about biscuits? I mean, we're doing a lot of research for different episodes, and we were doing some stuff. We got a cornbread one coming that we've been researching for. And it was interesting. They talked about how most people had biscuits for a special occasion, like a Sunday, like a church biscuit you mentioned. So where does that terminology for you, where did that come from?
A church biscuit? Yeah. Literally, when COVID happened, and the first week I made biscuits. I don't make biscuits every Sunday. I'm not a big breakfast eater. And we are getting out to the church, it's grab a granola bar.
Yeah.
But that first week, it's usually I would make them on Saturdays if we didn't have anywhere to go. But that week, I thought, I'm here.
Yeah.
I want to make biscuits.
Yeah.
And they are a very therapeutic thing for me to make, just getting my hands in that dough. And so I made them that first week and just took a picture because we're making a point.
Right.
We're document, like this is happening.
Right.
This is different, but we're going to have our biscuits at church. It just sort of was and then it just, because really people were interested in it, I just kept doing it.
Yeah.
And so.
Well, and I'm sure your family enjoyed it.
Oh, yes.
Well, I know. I actually felt a little jealous yesterday. I came home and I saw they had made biscuits without me because I was down at the church.
Yeah, for the first time.
For the first time.
Yeah.
So.
I know. It was kind of nice. We had, Devon just, this is an aside, but she goes to church with us. But our live stream would be at 10:30. So, you had time to get up, put a pot of coffee, make biscuits.
Leisurely.
And then get the kids up, and it wasn't this kind of rush, harem, scarum, trying to, like you say, get out the door. So there were definitely some advantages.
I did make
shelter
some yesterday, though.
Yeah.
Did you?
We didn't go till 11 o'clock yesterday, so I had a little.
Gotcha.
But I didn't document it because, no, we went to church. I was trying to figure out a way to, take y'all, the staff. I was like, I don't even know where everybody is. I'm going to figure it out, and I'll bring some.
Right.
But, yeah.
So what do you guys have on biscuits? What do you, just butter or?
I love a good French butter or like a Kerrygold, like a like Irish
a grass fed.
Yeah, just a rich, salty.
There's a good bit of Kerrygold in it. I'll just tell you.
I love that stuff. Kroger does, their private selection does a French salted that they had consistently at a time before I started buying it, but Kerrygold's the winner.
Yeah.
So really that's all I need. But various jams. Reese wants honey on his.
There you go.
Always honey. I love molasses.
Okay.
But that's sticky and you have Maddie likes a strawberry preserve. We just whatever we've got.
Yeah.
If I'm really sweet, I'll some bacon with it. I like sausage, but I'm very picky about my sausage and it has to be crispy.
Right. Yeah.
Thin and crispy.
Yeah.
No patty.
Yeah.
But usually we just maybe if we have breakfast for supper, we'll have egg sandwiches on biscuits sometimes.
That sounds good.
That's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, years ago when I was really into making them, I did sausage gravy with them.
Yes, and
I'm telling you, there's not much that's better.
It is delicious. And when Reese, my 15-year-old son, decided he liked that, it gave me all the wind in my sails to make it. It's like, I make this. Who's going to eat, But he used to call it sauce.
Sauce.
You're going to make any sauce for the biscuits?
Oh, that's great.
And that's what was one of Jennifer's things, too, is biscuits and gravy. And it's hard to find.
Yeah.
It really is.
I don't trust it at restaurants unless they are known for, homemade, they didn't open a packet and make gravy.
So another thing. All right, the size of biscuits.
Okay.
Do you have a specific biscuit size that you prefer?
I'm about to order new biscuit cutters because the other day I realized I'm missing the size I like. Why haven't I just gotten myself a new cutter? Because I've had that stacking set, I think, from Williams-Sonoma for years.
Yeah, we have that.
I like probably about a 2-inch round, maybe. I've got I guess it's a 1-inch. And I like that. Well, maybe it's 1.5 because it's not just a bite. Well, I guess it could be a bite. And that's cute. And I do like that.
That would be neat for a party.
Yes.
Like a brunch.
Let them go a little further because everybody, just try different things.
Right.
But the one I have been using is probably more like a 3 to 4 inch.
Wow.
I haven't measured it. And they're much bigger than
It's
I
more
like.
like a cat head biscuit.
Yeah, it kind of is. But I think they rise puffier and prettier too if they're a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
Because when I make the small ones, they're so pretty.
Really
They
nice
just
Have you brushed the top of them with anything, or you just
they just go in. Maybe after,
Yeah.
but usually not.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, cool.
Well, and here's a question. So what do you bake them in or on?
Cast iron.
Okay.
So I have a cast iron griddle. So it's a rectangular, the one that flips smooth on one side, the grill pan on the other.
Yeah.
And that's what I use because it is so thick and it holds a lot of biscuits. A skillet's fine, but it won't fit the whole batch.
Right.
So that's what I use. Yeah. But I do when we were talking about fluffy, the technique that I use to make them fluffy is very specific.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's hard to describe audibly. But it's kind of an envelope fold, like with pastry. So that's my air quotes kneading. Right. You don't knead a biscuit. The less you touch it, the better.
Yeah.
But so when you plop the dough on the paper towel, lightly flour, and just fold it on itself, probably 4 times.
Yeah.
But you just sort of know when it's there. But and you can tell the first time that worked was like, okay, it's like I can grate my butter and I can fold them. There we go. That's it.
It's exciting.
Yeah, it was the first time she did it in the quarantine. It was like, these are beautiful. I don't even want to eat it. But we did, of course, and they were wonderful. But,
Well, and they reminded me of, the store-bought biscuits with all those layers. And just the fact that I had done it myself, I was like, woo, wow, this is neat, I mean, it's that technique of lamination that they call it, and it's the same thing with like croissants or any kind of pastry.
I think it elevates our biscuits.
Oh, absolutely. Those layers and just it looks beautiful. And then, of course, all the butter.
Well, and I have to say, I think my grandfather would have eaten those because they're not doughy.
They aren't doughy.
They're just fluffy and delicious. It's not just this kind of...
Peel off the top and bottom and give it to them.
Yeah, and then everybody else can get the...
Exactly. Well, cool. Well, thank you for telling us about your biscuits. And we hope listeners will be motivated to try biscuits, and you can... eventually, maybe I'll be able to make a biscuit with layers, but... Right now, I'm leaving it to her. She makes them.
Well, my children used the video that I made and put on my blog to make biscuits for me on Mother's Day successfully.
That was
I was so proud. I thought, I did okay on my video.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But, they did a good. So
tell us real quick. Tell us real quick about your blog and where people can find you.
Yeah.
Well, the blog is called Cast Iron Magnolia.
Okay.
So it's just www.castironmagnolia.com.
All right.
And it's just a blog I've been puttering at over the years. Recipes at first, then there's interludes with some life stuff, and then more food at the end. And I may actually start offering items to sell soon. But
cool.
So I'm trying to put more on it and be more intentional with it.
Awesome.
Good.
Well, good. Well, thank you for coming. Thank you for telling us about your biscuits. And we hope you folks, listeners, have been motivated, and hopefully we'll learn to make some biscuits. And if not, and maybe elevate your biscuit game. Maybe I can too. But anyway, well, thank you very much. This is Sweet Tea and Tacos for this week. Leave us a review, leave us a comment, send us an email if you have a question or something you want to talk about, or if you have a biscuit comment. That's it. I'm Dave.
And I'm Jen.
And Devon.
Hi.